Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, the sexy and the not so sexy, big children and little, what I am doing is going live on YouTube. YouTube is here. And I'm also going live on TikTok at the same time because I'm only saying this once. So forgive me for acting out here. I don't want to do that. Back to meeting. There we go. All right. Had a little technical difficulty just so y'all can see what I'm doing. I'm live. Is that a better angle? I guess it is. You probably can't see it, so it's better to see me. Okay. Let's start over. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, the sexy and the not so sexy, big children and little. I am the novelist, author, poet, Lamont Anthony Wright, AKA Graffiti Blue. I just wanted to talk money from an independent artist perspective. Let's talk money. And like I said, I want to go live more often and just share thoughts. And the art. This is a freestyle. Make no mistake. And there, I will be telling the story poetically and all that. But I just really just wanted to have it to be just my thoughts and not necessarily come with something overly contrived. I need to save that that lane for actual art. I'm in the middle of writing a lot of things, and I just got to give it. I just got to give y'all freestyle bars because I'm not going to write. I don't have the time to write shows. To that being said, I thought it would be actually more clever. Let's talk money. I want to talk money from an independent artist standpoint, because I think that there are levels, and this is not a flex. This is not a underselling it either. These are just my thoughts. These are some conclusions that I came to. I want to talk money as far as putting out a project, because I am many things, but the main couple things that I am is I am a writer first, who just so happens to rap very well because of the writing, and I can perform spoken word very well, so I can pretty much act it out. But I am a writer first. I also put out hip hop albums. I also do spoken word projects and such. So what I wanted to talk money was in releasing a book of the approximate cost that I believe it will take monetarily for you to make a splash, for people to know your name, for you to have name recognition, is what I'm talking about. And I can only speak from my own experiences. This is what I'll tell you what worked. I'll tell you what didn't work. I'll be transparent. Okay. I'll tell you what worked. I'll tell you what didn't work. I will talk about a realistic budget for having a book release, or a successful book release, or what do you think success is? Your budget will really depend on what you're trying to do. And it's just coming up with a budget. It's just realistic. I'll tell you what my goals were. I'll tell you what it took to make a splash, and we'll just keep it pushing. I want to talk about a budget for my MC lane, for what I think it would take, a broad scale, depending on what you want to do, to release an independent album and possibly accomplish your goal, depending on what your goal is. Every artist's goal is to reach as many people as possible. But I'm talking a realistic goal to see that can happen. You follow what I'm saying? Just a realistic goal. You know what I mean? What if we want to reach every single person alive, then what's the first step? You got to have a budget, my opinion. And lastly, if I want to talk about releasing a book, and I want to talk about releasing an album project, I want to talk about the spoken word portion of me, of what it would take to either throw a poetry event so that you could see a return. If you're like an event planner, I started planning events and emceeing seriously right around the same time. So I'm cut from both cloths. Or I also want to take the last section and talk about budgeting. Like, if you are a poet who wants to host his or her own venue, what is the budget for that? You know what I mean? What are you trying to accomplish? And what do you think a budget is? Now, for those three things I freaking talked about, you have some people on this planet who don't budget for anything. They just feel, let's talk money, let's talk real. And they feel a drunk, like almost arrogance, just like, if I put my art just out into the ethos, or my intentions out out there, the ether. Excuse me, I said ethos because I'm in album rollout mode. Just throw it out there into the ether. And it is going to be so dope. People are going to feel it. My music, my art, whatever, my writing, my book, they're going to feel it like how I feel it. I don't know about all that. So that's it. And it's not to say that it's not. But again, how much money do we put out there to see that will have the best likelihood of happening? Now, some people get right to it. Some people don't have a budget for anything, and they just like, hey, I'm so freaking dope, let's go. And good for them. And I can't speak for every case. Maybe some people make it that way. In putting a book out for a self-published person, and you want to make a wave, and you really want to do the tour, that's going to cost you, depending on what your goal is. That's going to cost you. That's going to cost you a couple grand. You need to design, you need to have the book, you need to go to a publisher of some sort, right? That's going to cost money. That might cost you a G or more, depending on how complicated and how thick your book is. We got to think about the margins. We got to think about page count. We got to think about font spacing. You got to get somebody to design the cover. Maybe you're clever enough to design it itself. All of that costs money. Probably ain't gonna walk away from it for at least anything less than $2,000 off top before they'll even start talking to you. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to budget for that. So you could get it cheaper. There are a lot of people on this planet that just know people and they get it for cheaper than that. I'm just saying you might want to be prepared to cough up $2K for that. Moving forward, releasing a book, what is your goal? What do you want to do? Do you want it reviewed? Those guys have a price, $100 here for a review. Depending on how many people they have on their platform, maybe they have a huge platform. And I think it can cost you a couple $100 just for them to just even talk to you. Get your book reviewed. Then your book goes up on a site. You could pay for advertising to have your book up on other sites where people read books. At the end of the day, where are the people that read books? Reading is a very niche thing. Not many people read books. Of those people who read books, not many people read books all the time. Of those people who do, you know what I mean? And it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So we love our children. We write the book. We think it's the best thing ever because we wrote it. Of course, we love our children. But at the end of the day, I really think you could spend $5,000. And if you write really freaking good and hit and do the tour and hit fairs and writing places where people who read books or drink books, you need to find out where they are. You could possibly make your money back. That's a lot of books you'd have to sell to put that 5K investment back in your pocket. Not to mention you're putting gas in a car or whatever it is, however you're getting to where those people are, that's an expense too. You can easily spend freaking 7 to 10 and be known in a small region. Some people don't have that. Some people just have the best book ever just sitting on a computer somewhere. All right, moving forward, let's talk money. But what do you want to do? Some people just want to write the book and put it on a shelf. I wrote this book, it's published, it's in the archive or whatever, but success to them, they just never thought they would ever write one. So they just wrote, you know what I mean? They just wrote one. They don't want to be Stephen King and write, 24. They want to stop here. I'm good. I wrote one. And if that's your goal, that is your goal. If you want to flirt with whatever, and get in those literary circles, and I'm just speaking from my personal experience, it may cost you as little as $3,000, but you could easily spend 10 and not sell a fucking book. Just saying. To an album, to push the album out, this one is a little tricky too, because it all depends on your position in a particular rap group. Let's talk rap music. Actually, let's talk just music in general. Where are you getting your music from? Let's make it pertain to hip hop, right? In my position, I'm the songwriter, and I'm the lyricist and the vocalist. Okay, we got that covered. But it still needs production. Who's doing that? Who is doing those beats, or who is making the music? How much do they need to get? They broke off. You know what I mean? Some people are getting dope beats from somebody that's just from around the way. Here's my donation, and when we're all good, and I just need the credits. That's fine. Sometimes you have to go outside and to a producer that's going to charge you. Some producers will freaking charge you a damn half a cow. You know what I mean? But they got the fire. So what do you do? What is it worth to you? You're going to need to pay for studio time for this music. You're going to need to mix and master this freaking album. You're going to have some sort of concept, some type of rollout, some type of plan. Who's going to see it? How far do you want to go? Again, just like writing a freaking book, you might just want to throw some flows together and just put it out there in the ether. And you're happy with that without spending a nickel. Okay? Doesn't mean you're not a success. That shit might be the most firest. I have opened independent albums. The shit was so damn crack. You're just like, if you put whatever a major budget is, and you just start spitting that on every rotation, and the album would be out of here. I know countless independent albums I've heard like that. You know what I mean? So, they talk about hip hop dying, or a lot of rappers are just not getting signed to record companies. I'm just like, that shit might be the best thing for hip hop ever. You know what I mean? And the artists can share their freaking own music again. Shit, that shit might be the hardest shit ever. Anyway, we're talking money on this blog, so let's finish talking money. We're talking money. Mix and master. You're gonna have to mix and master the album. I said you're gonna have to have some type of rollout. Where do you want this to be seen? Cats will charge you. videos cost money too. You know what I mean? You got your homie with a camera around the way, or you gonna pay somebody who does videos all the freaking time? You know what I mean? You might need extras. You might need some models. You know what I mean? Female or male. You might need an actor, depending on how you're trying to give it up in this video. You're just going to do a performance joint, jumping around in front of an abandoned building. You could do that if it works, but you may have to freaking spend some bread. I know I've paid $1,000 for a video and had the video be the hardest shit you've ever seen in your life. And I know I spent $3K for a video, and I pretty much had to edit it after the dude chopped it. Shit was sloppy. So anyway, Dusty. Shout out to J Black. With the music thing, it depends on what with music talking money, it really depends on what your goal is. My personal goal for the Champagne Ethos album was 100,000 streams. And that might be ambitious for an independent guy, but shit, shoot for the stars and bring back the moon, baby. Anyway, but even with cashing in favors and knowing people, I would be surprised if any album in the hip hop genre put out today, you would have to make a splash outside of being really fucking good. You gotta be really good to stand out. You gotta be something else. But the money I think it would take to really mix, master, polish, and you put it into people's hands that can make shit happen, one album will probably cost you anywhere from 5 to 50K and shit, if you want to make some, if you want to get on the scene, and this is talking shit, and to be in a position to make your money back, you're ready to go, you're practicing for shows, and your show is fucking tight, so when them lights come on, you don't look like that's the first show you ever fucking did in your life. You don't want that, you know what I mean? So this is 50K, I'm just taking the top end, 5 to 50K, and you are razor sharp ready just in case you get the fucking phone call that, oh shit, you broke through. I think it would take at least that. Now, is it impossible for you to be the nicest kid ever and just bust verses down, all up and down every hood in America and just make it just off that? You probably, if you're a badass, the cream rises to the top somehow. That shit just goes. You can't keep it. You can't even submerge that shit. But to make that, I think you would necessarily have to do anywhere from 5 to 50K and be a killer. You know what I mean? Shit, you might need a publicist to push the shit. That's not gonna be fucking cheap. That's gonna be cake. Just designing that shit. Jesus Christ, what in studio time, engineer, studios are not cheap. Not for that good sound. Getting a good engineer to really bust that shit down, good producers that know that can send you everything on time in a timely fashion and all of that shit. No, I think 50 is light. You know what I mean? And the last one is throwing events. Let's just talk money. Even with a deck stacked, and I'm going from my own experience. Let's say And what we did is we featured myself in Queens, New York, and put Brooke Alford, and we did a show called The Poet and the Violin, and we freaking came to kick ass. And I'm going back home, number one, to New York, and I got Brooke as a ringer. If I'm saying that's my ace that I got up my sleeve, right? You know what I mean? Doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna pack the house. You follow what I'm saying? Some people came out, but that shit was not bursting at the seams. And the people who witnessed the fucking show was just like, oh my God, I got to tell people about this. You know what I mean? Because I was always taught whether you're performing in front of 9 or 9,000, you kill every freaking time that mic is in your freaking face. And Brooke and I vibed out hugely. But and I looked at that show, and we had to reevaluate, because it was just like Brooke was just like, well, to keep it a stack with you, my fan base out here in New York are mostly in Brooklyn. They would come out for a Brooklyn event. And I was just like, okay. And then I realized that I needed some people on the freaking ground. You know what I mean? In NY, letting people know that this is what's going to happen. Well, that costs money. And I said I'd talk about two aspects in that: throwing events. I was going to talk about throwing an event. I was also going to talk about what I feel it costs to run a poetry venue. I'll do the poetry venue last, then I'm out of here. But throwing an event and getting money back depends on the size of the venue and who the fuck you've got to pay. You know what I mean? Do you have a system yourself? Do you have self-powered speakers? What kind of a freaking mixing board are you going to need? You're going to need a sound guy. If you don't have any clue what any of that shit is, then you're probably going to need a sound guy or a DJ that has plenty of freaking sound. How much sound do you freaking need? You want to throw an event? Probably let's assume that some speakers are going to be going on. Even if you have the loudest freaking poet and whatever, having some type of sound system is essential. Well, a sound system, if you buy it yourself or whether you get a DJ, is going to cost you some grip. Those prices range depending on what you want. I won't stay there. You're going to need the venue itself. Is somebody loaning it to you? Is it some type of coffee shop that will allow you to do it there, and they keep the door, or you keep the door and they just want people to buy alcohol? Are you even going to be able to throw that type of an event with alcohol involved? That's a different thing. What's your cut? Who fucking knows? But it's going to cost you something. It's going to cost you something. But let's say you're ambitious. Let's say you want to lease a building. Well, that's another ball of wax. That's going to cost you a couple Ks. You follow what I'm saying? That's a couple Ks. And okay, but I can only relate it to me. I was at Stellar Studios with Rhythm and Poetry. Rhythm and Poetry had 3 places it lived when I ran. For those of you who don't know, Rhythm and Poetry was a poetry venue that I did on the East Coast and I did on the West Coast. It had 3 places it lived. On the East Coast, it was at Cat's Cafe in downtown Atlanta. That spot ran for 2 years. I was your host, your main man, me, where we can argue Graffiti Blue was born, or he was cultivated there. Stellar Studios in Sacramento was also the home and probably the best rhythm and poetry I've ever had the part of being in. There's something about Stellar Studios doing rhythm and poetry out of there. And the last home it was at the Brazilian Center for Cultural, I forget the entire name of the building, but the Brazilian Center for Culture for Cultural Exchange was housed, and they had some pretty memorable nights in the Culture Center too, in the Brazilian Center too. But just to give you a number, because we're talking money, the number it took to get Rhythm and Poetry off the ground. I needed a sound system. I needed self-powered speakers. I needed a mixing board. I needed to update the website so that the website could look like Fandango when you're buying a ticket. People don't trust independent websites, by the way. So I can only give it to me. All of that shit, having that shit completely automated. I had to get nerds from out of the country to freaking to build that shit crispy clean. Not saying that Phaedra Dion here in the United States isn't the best web designer. I know, but I needed the super duper nerds to do what I wanted. That shit cost me $7,000 to start Rhythm and Poetry. Let's say, yeah, let's say 7, and all that shit was 7, and that's light. But that's what I wanted, because I didn't want to have to depend on a DJ. I didn't want to have to depend on a sound guy. And fucking Rhythm and Poetry ran for freaking 4 years. In the 5 years, and in the 3 spaces it was in. So I'm sure I would have paid more than $7,000 just at however many a pop it would have been to run the place, because especially in the West Coast, that shit, we was doing that shit every Thursday. So that shit adds up. What's the normal DJ fees nowadays? You know what I mean? So, and how much is that worth? So anyway, I'm gonna get off here, but through all the modalities that I'm talking about, talking money, I think if you're really approaching a serious project, you should be thinking that I'm going to have to at least invest $5K inside this. This is my opinion. This is the. I think $5,000 is just like, oh, they're serious. You know what I mean? I think how much, and I actually think that's even light. I mean, how much would you invest in yourself? How much are you worth? What are your dreams worth? 5,000 is light, but I just wanted to really be gentle with this one, because at the end of the day, it's really not about money. You know what I mean? It's let's talk money, but it's really not about money. So the last thing I'm going to say, talking about money, is that for a true artist, the expression of that art really comes before anything else. The expressing that art and getting your gun off, so to speak, if you're an artist, expressing yourself is really priority 1 to me. I'm blogging on YouTube for all those on TikTok. Look at that. That's the TikTok people looking at YouTube people. And to be honest with you, just even if in the early Twitter days, just getting a couple bars off and people rocking with it in a Twitter space for absolutely free was dope. To have people retweeting your bars, your lines. You know what I mean? Your book comes out, people fuck with it and share it and whatnot. It's a dope feeling, and that stuff is really free. You know what I mean? Just doing, actually a lot of my fun, don't be wrong, stage is dope, and I love the stage, but just being at a freaking campfire with, you know what I mean, with your people, with your fam, and they ask you to spit a verse and you just hit them with some crazy verse in between barbecue or some shit. Well, you know what I mean? That is just expressing it is freaking dope. So it's really, money is not the end all, but flipping back, bringing it all the way around, I do see some people that do want to see some type of tangible success. You know what I mean? They want people to read their shit, listen to their shit. You know what I mean? Come to their spot. You know what I mean? See what's going on. Be recognized. You know what I mean, for their contributions. You know, and too many times that I see artists romanticize their own art and themselves and think that it won't. They don't even think budget. Even if that budget is $100, this is all I'm willing to part with to get to the masses. I got $100. Hell, I got $50. I got $25 for this freaking project. I might have 5 here, 5 here, 5 here, 5 here. This is all I got. That's fine. It doesn't really really matter to me. But the type of things that I personally am looking for to reach the people, you know what I mean? I know the price for your independence, if you want to be in control of your own art, if you want to be in charge of your own vision, you don't want people to take your characters and make them what they are, how you didn't write them, right? If you want to be in control, but yet you want big corporate results, but you don't want to deal with corporate, well, you're going to have to find the bag. But somebody may want to invest in you, though. Maybe you get a sponsor. Maybe somebody says, hey, I love this art. I'm willing to give you this if I can have a percentage or whatever that is, whatever arrangement that may do, at least consider it. And this way you can see realistically. So your heart is not freaking broken when you release the album or book or whatever of a lifetime and no one rocks with it because no one knows it exists. No one knows it exists. No one knows it exists. Now you're heartbroken. So this is less about money and more about expectation. Money is a concept. A lot of people think money is hard to get. It's really not. Ooh, how do you get rich? Well, I don't want to be one of those guys that's insincere. And you know, the rich guys on TV telling us how to be rich, right? You know, hey, I'm so rich, I need to share how I got rich with you. And just for a fee, you know, I could teach you how to do what I'm doing. Oh, maybe they're sincere. What who knows? But we have to at least consider some sort of a budget and whatever that number is. And if it's not something you're comfortable with, you're an independent artist. You're on your own freaking terms anyway. Who cares? But I just wanted to share that stuff with you.